Talking with Steve from collegefootballwinning.com and Doug Upstone from impactwageringsolutions.com, previewing college football week 11 here on the SBRtv College Football Experts Roundtable. All right, let's get to the Marquee Matchups Rundown that we do every week, running down the lines for the marquee matchups on the card. The first game we're going to talk about is a Thursday night game, Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech +1. Both teams off of a bye. Should be a great game. This is a huge stay off for me, but what do you think of this line, Steve?
Also a huge stay off for me.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech their fate has been sort of determined by turnover margins. And as you know, when you're going up against Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech, traditionally very well-coached team, you couldn't ask for much of a better coach than Frank Beamer when it comes to giving him 2 weeks to prepare for this team. So I think they probably have. Last year, they won this game at Virginia Tech by a touchdown. So that was also coming off of a bye, but they did lose against the spread. They were 13-point favorites then. My conclusion is to stay away from this game.
Yeah, me too. Doug Upstone, what do you think? Virginia Tech at Georgia.
Virginia Tech is, they've had a large amount of trials and tribulations all year, but here they are in line potentially for their 5th ACC title in the last 8 years. Now, they've been a horrible wager all year at 2-7 against the spread, and when they've been a larger favorite of 7.5 or more points, they've dumped each time. But I think they are 14-5 on Thursday nights. So they sort of really get up for these types of games where they're really in the spotlight. And the visiting team is 6-2 in this ACC conflict. I'll lean with Virginia Tech in this one.
All right. Penn State, a 3.5-point home dog, 3.5 points at home. You think either side is worth taking here? Doug, what do you think?
Yes, even before the scandal happened, I like Nebraska in this game, and I think they're going to win by 13 or more.
All right. Steve, stay off, or you think there's a side worth betting?
I will tell you that I do think the wrong team is favored here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the slightest lean would go to Penn State. I like the under better, but I will tell you, I am not going to bet on this game at all.
Right. Too many uncertainties. And then we have Auburn at Georgia. Auburn +13 at Georgia. Auburn is off of a bye. I'm thinking this game, might not be, it might be a close game going down to the wire. I'm kind of leaning towards Auburn. What do you think, Steve?
I think based on the power ratings we have at collegefootballwinning.com, this game is sort of the number is off. And I think this should be more like Georgia being the right side, but only at -8 or -9. Public money's coming in on Auburn. This is still a pretty powerful SEC matchup. I think Georgia's the right side, but I also think that the number is too high. And so for those reasons, I would stay away from this game.
Okay. I'm leaning towards Auburn. Doug, what do you think?
Well, with Mark Richt, at the beginning of the year when they lost their first 2 games, everybody was like, who's going to be the new Georgia coach? Okay, well, he's taking care of that by winning the games. Now, with 2 more wins in the SEC, all of a sudden, Georgia could be the surprise team of the entire country if they could upset whoever they would play in the SEC championship. Now, in this particular game, I believe that this is going to be a stern test for Georgia. I think they're going to have a harder time. I think the line is too high. I agree with Steve. I think the number's a little bit too big. I think it's a 7-point game. I'll take Georgia to win, Auburn to cover.
All right, and then finally we have Oregon at Stanford. Stanford, of course, perfect ATS on the year. They're only a 3.5-point home favorite, which at first might seem a little bit low. But more I look at this game, the more I think this might be the game where Stanford loses ATS. They got a little bit exposed by Oregon State's speed on offense last week, and Oregon, of course, has much more. Steve, what do you think? You think Stanford loses ATS for the first time this week?
I think there's that real possibility this week. Stanford has been playing just out of their minds and perhaps a little bit above their talent level. I don't know how many injuries it takes before we start saying they just simply do not have the depth that Oregon does, and they just have way too many injuries this far at this point in the season. Right now, 3 of their top 5 receivers, including 2 tight ends in a tight end heavy offense, are out or at least seriously doubtful. I'm liking Oregon in this, and what people are not talking about is Oregon could, if enough weird things shake out, Oregon could wind up in that BCS national championship talk themselves if they beat Stanford here.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I like Oregon as a bet, and in fact, I'm calling right now for Oregon as an upset. I think they're going to get the win outright due to, as you just said, injury concerns for Stanford as well as speed concerns. Doug, do you agree with that analysis?
I do. Oregon hasn't been an underdog since their opener in 2009 against Boise State. And the Cardinal is just 2-9 and 3-8 against the Ducks since 1998. Now, the last 6 meetings have averaged 75 points per game. But in this case, I believe speed kills, Ducks win and cover.
I agree. All right, thanks so much once again, guys. That is our preview of college football week 11 here on the SBRtv College Football Experts Roundtable. Thanks once again to Doug Upstone of ImpactWageringSolutions.com and Steve from CollegeFootballWinning.com. Thanks, guys.